Hi everybody, Grizzle here with a rundown of the latest patch in Overwatch, patch 1.9. I'm going to be creating these regularly to keep everyone up to date with the change in Overwatch, so be sure to subscribe to stay in the loop. Let's start with the latest addition to the roster, Orisa, and then we can move on to the other changes in the patch. Orisa is still finding her feet where she's going to fit into the main game, which I'm sure will be apparent soon. With a great toolbox to play with, it's going to be interesting to see what her strengths are once everyone gets their hands on her. This hero is introduced to be more in line with the Reinhardt style of play, taglined by Blizzard as another anchor tank. What we found with Rein is that the team positioned themselves depending on where the Rein was and pushed when Rein pushed. He called the shots. Another prominent barrier based tank introduces another option for that. So let's move on to her abilities. Fusion Driver. This is a sustained projectile based gun with no fall off. It's capable of critical hits, and with a renovated magazine of 150 it's going to pack a huge punch. Think of it like a baby D.Va Gatling gun. Her movement is slightly decreased when it's activated as well, similar to D.Va's. Protective Barrier. This is a projected shield which is like a mini Rein barrier that can be fired and placed in front of Orisa. It's in the shape of a football net and cannot be deflected by Genji or destroyed by a D.Va defense matrix. It has 900 health and a 20-second duration with a 12-second cooldown. This can be used offensively and defensively alike due to its shape, and can be used to protect from above as well as behind, perfect for using against a troublesome Pharah and any number of ultimates. And on the ball, Orisa can use this to negate a number of abilities by blocking a projectile path, namely McCree's Deadeye. Fortify. Orisa temporarily reduces damage she takes and cannot be affected by action impairing effects. Not only does this reduce damage by 50%, but with a 4-second duration and a 10-second cooldown it can be sustained almost 40% of the time too. Please note the cooldown doesn't start until the Fortify ends. Namely, some of the things this will negate is any form of knockback, sleep, earth shatter, charge, slows, hook, stuns, graviton surge, and of course Orisa's own halt ability. She will, however, still take the damage of said abilities, albeit with the 50% reduction. Halt. Launch a graviton charge which can be detonated with the same action. The sphere slows and pulls enemies nearby to it. This is a slow moving linear projectile which can be detonated or will detonate upon contact with an object. Upon detonation it sucks in any enemies within 7.5 meters, applies a brief slow and then dissipates. Heroes within the radius of the orb is signified by a green trail behind them. The projectile itself can go through barriers, but the pull effect will not pull anyone behind a barrier. The synergy potential of this with the switches on Orisa is huge. This is going to force people to think a lot more about positioning for fear of environmental kills. Nobody is going to want to be anywhere near the Ilios well when Orisa is in the game. Not only is it powerful in this sense, but the ability to pull players together combos so well with things like Tracer Ultimate and a loaded Junkrat, setting up a hook, pretty much anything that synergizes with the Graviton Surge, and this is every 8 seconds. Sorry Zaya. Supercharger. This is Orisa's ultimate, and she deploys a device that increases damage to inflicted allies within a line of sight. This is a 200 health barrel. It gives players within 25 meters a 50% damage boost for 15 seconds or until it's destroyed. Tactical deployment of this on a push is going to be really clutch, and a scary thing is that it stacks with a nano boost. When she first saw light she had a Lager magazine of 200, so accounting for reload, her sustainable DPS was on 125. Since the patch, the magazines have been nerfed down to 150, and this value becomes 120 DPS, so not a huge difference, not as noticeable as it sounds, but it would seem it needed some tweaking. The turbo charger nerf also had its charge time increased by 15%, and was likely deserved too, as it appeared to come up just a little too often. So these are exciting times for anyone looking for something new, and I'm hoping she's going to become a staple tank. It's totally worth it just for lifting up Reinhardts and exposing those squishies behind them. Should be fun. Okay, so let's move on to the existing heroes and what changes we're going to see to the current roster. So we'll start off with Anna. Biotic Rifle, damage decreased from 80 to 60. So it looks like they finally got fed up with Anna's persistence in the meta and decided to reduce her DPS potential. It has caused a lot of ripples, but it's not all bad news. So it opens up other support picks again in a big way. It's good for those Mercy mains who felt a bit forced into that hero just to be viable. The Biotic Grenade damage and healing was previously nerfed during the public test realm, but after they've tested it, it was thankfully seen as a bit of an oversight and returned to its standard numbers. The healing buff and the anti-healer haven't been changed at all. It ensures that her grenade is a situational tool and used to aid your left mouse button healing, not to replace it. Change should mostly hurt her 1v1 potential, so the only real change I see from her is her being punished more for being away from the team, having to position more situationally. She has no escape, but that's just the price you pay as Ana. She's a hero that has the best of Mercy and Zen combined, and of course she's got to have a drawback. A lot of the fear surrounding these changes is inadvertently going to give Pharah a huge buff, particularly at the lower tiers where Pharah is just always a massive problem to deal with as it is. Now Ana takes 4 shots as opposed to 3 to kill Pharah, so there's fewer options when that justice starts raining from above a bit too often. Good news for flankers though, Ana won't be able to easily take down that 200 HP target. It's going to take that extra shot to cut them down. So is this going to see a drop in players willing to pick support? Maybe, but I'm hoping all it will do is actually weed out the people who spend the whole game just trying to top the eliminations while their teammates wither and die about 2 feet away from them. So I think it's a positive thing. Overall, the changes are welcome. Whole point of Overwatch is that it's a rock paper scissors interplay between the different characters. That's what makes it interesting. So Ana just turned the game into rock paper scissors dynamite. She was basically just a must pick in any given situation if she was played well. It just opens up more support options while still leaving her as sort of more of a niche pick for certain situations. Okay, so moving on to Junkrat. He no longer hurts himself from his own explosions. Effect added to current passive, Total Mayhem. So what this means basically is any grenades that Junkrat fires, it's not going to hurt him. Similar to his mine, it's just not going to do any damage at all. So you can be a lot more carefree with your grenades. He's been a low tier pick for a long time now. Lack of ability to deal with certain heroes, mixed with the random poke damage charging defensive ults, has left him out of the fray for the most part, so I think he did need some love. Overall bad news for squishies though. We'll see a lot more blind firing that we fear, so stay out of those enclosed rooms. It's going to look like a pinball machine in there. I feel it adds to his playstyle of chaotic grenade spamming. Part of his charm is being able to get those unexpected kills, lucky picks with being fast and loose with the grenades, so there's even less reason for him to hold back. It's just going to be hell for leather, grenades everywhere. Next up, Sombra. Quite a few changes for her this patch. Definitely needed some attention, so we'll look at the stealth to start with. Sound effects and VO distance for entering and exiting stealth reduced to 15 meters. So she's no longer gonna, scream when she comes out of stealth. Also, her hack has seen a slight change. So hacked health packs can now be seen through walls for her allies. Should make it a lot easier now just to see which health packs are hacked by the Sombra. Obviously that makes them a bit more easy to use and locate, and makes her a bit more useful and utilised overall. She's also had her translocator changed. The cooldown has now been reduced from 6 seconds to 4 seconds. Sombra buffs are going to be interesting, allows for a better stealth related gameplay. She's now going to rival Tracer as well for one of the most annoying characters to even see, let alone try and kill. The sound effect reduction is nice, letting her stay a lot closer to the action without painting a target on herself. At present, the Sombra cycles place translocator stealthy and kill someone warp out. It's going to allow her to be a lot more loose with her translocator, which is one of the most fun parts of her character, and where a skilled Sombra can be a real pain in the arse. Next up, Winston. So Winston, he's been fun, but not particularly something that's a go-to pick. He's been very, very niche, so I'm hoping that these changes will make a big difference for him. So the change we've seen for Winston is his barrier projector. Cooldown now starts when the barrier is placed instead of when it ends. Winston fans have been crying out for this change since release. I think it's going to be make him a lot more fun to play and a whole lot more dangerous. His shield is more in line with the other tanks now, particularly with Orisa's imminent release with her shield. It also cools down immediately. Frankly, it's crazy the weakest barrier in the game also took the longest to recharge. I don't doubt it's going to see a lot more play, particularly if Sombra becomes more prominent. Big changes to Lucio this patch as well, so let's move on and take a look at these. Sonic Amplifier. Projectile speed increased from 40 to 50. Lucio's Sonic Amplifier will now have a more reliable rate of fire, enabling the user to better track enemy movements. It's going to be closer to a Naked Diva or the Mercy rate of fire. Alternate Fire now considers vertical orientation when knocking targets back. Prior to this patch, even if you are facing at an angle, his alternate fire will just knock them backwards, so this change means they're now going to travel at an angle more in line with where you're aiming. His boot mechanic is really going to come alive now, as it feels like they knock back about 3 times as far if you get it right. Crossfade. Song's area of effect radius decreased from 30 meters to 10 meters. A temporary in-game visual has been added to illustrate this radius. It's only visible to Lucio and his teammates. And along the same lines as that, heal Song, so healing per second has increased by 50%. Also applies to Lucio's Amp It Up ability. So this is the biggest change to Lucio's toolkit. It's going to encourage a lot more awareness on Lucio's part rather than just being a living satellite miles away and still healing his teammates. The biggest impact is actually probably going to be on his speed boosts. Your teammates are going to have to group up really closely now when you're kind of running one of those death ball setups and pushing the point. His survivability has had a significant increase too, with the 50% healing increase, so veteran Lucio is really going to put up a fight in the 1v1 scenarios. Not sure how I feel about this change really, as I quite like to play Lucio aggressively. Feel kind of exposed when you have to stay on the back lines close to your team. One of his strengths is his verticality, so I hope it doesn't punish this aspect too much, because it's what makes Lucio so unique and fun to play. Sound Barrier. Radius decreased from 30 meters to 20 meters. With the Aura nerf, sound barrier has also been hit with a decrease on the area. Again, I imagine to encourage Lucio to be more with his team. I do find it to be a bit harsh on Lucio's ultimate, as it's quite lackluster as it is, and with the inevitable rise of Sombra, it's going to be hard enough to make an impact on a push, but again we'll see. Wall Ride. Movement speed increased by 30% when wall riding. Lucio now receives a burst of speed when leaping off a wall. I'm loving this change, it makes Lucio's key feature just even more fun. The speed you can get with this is just insane. With him being even more reliant on his movement to get back to his teammates, he's going to be even more versatile and harder to hit. So the developer's justification was mainly to stop it being so easy to heal your flankers and Pharahs just by existing and just being there. I think the trade-off for a higher rate of passive healing in the close proximity is a fair one when all's said and done. With the other buffs alongside it, Lucio's are now going to just have to be really savvy on when they can be aggressive and when just to dial it back and group up with their team. And it's making those correct decisions to separate the good players from the great players. And finally we've got Zenyatta. Orb of Destruction, alternate fire, recovery reduced from 1 second to 0.6 seconds. So my favourite robot gets a buff. These alternate fire is now less risky because you don't kill them outright, you can resume left clicking that bit faster. Makes the right click a bit more an option instead of just being used to play Zen Sniper or peeking for lucky kills. A change was tested that saw his Discord all go through barriers, which I was all for, as everyone hates a Bastion being pocket healed behind a Reinhardt. But with the imminent threat of dive comps being the new meta, it seems Blizzard had second thoughts about this. So it might seem a small change, but it's still going to be significant, I feel. So I like how much attention the support characters got in this patch, for better or worse, to try and bring them more in line with each other instead of having the outright must-have heroes. It's going to really mix things up and encourage people to broaden their style of play. If your favourite hero has had change and you're unhappy about it, you shouldn't be too sad, because all heroes get their time in the sun. As often is the way with Blizzard, it's just a big cycle of peaks and troughs for a lot of the characters. It makes the game more interesting and more dynamic, keeps the meta ever changing as well. Season 4's only just got started, so it's a perfect chance to try someone new if you are troubled by the changes, and who knows what the favoured setup will look like by the end of it. It could even involve a hand zone. Peace!